So it's time to continue with the Black Ops Battleship series. It is a little bit risky for me to fly these ships right now because we have a, let's say, a very interesting weather situation here. There's a lot of snow and the snow has messed up the power lines. Basically, it has destroyed some of the cables that connect my town to the main line, and basically I had no electricity for a whole day, and today the power was very unstable. It does basically go away at randomly, and of course, if you have no electricity, you have no internet, and if you have no internet, you can't connect to the game. Even the signal towers have been offline, which is kind of scary when you think about it, because I was literally completely separate from society for a day or two. Well, almost for 2 days actually, almost. Anyway, time to take a look at this space potato. Well, space shoe, space potato. It is the Sin, which, yeah, based on the Dominx hull. And it has these little things that are hanging off it. It's been there for a while. I have no idea what these things are. I have honestly no idea why it hasn't been removed, because it's been here for like 2 years now in the game. But in any case, let's take a look at this thing's trait description. The most fun part, well, the most fun part, one of the more important parts here. So the roll bonus, it can be fitted with a sinusoidal field generator. It can be fitted with a sinusoidal field generator, so it has, you know, 2 of them. One is the covert, the other one is the classic one. Jump drive available, can recognize covert sinusoidal signal, minus 100% cloaking device lock delay, minus 50% cloaking device reactivation delay, minus 5% effective jump distance on jump fatigue duration, and a plus 50% bonus on shield extenders and armor plates. So the roll bonus is the same as with the Panther. Now, I know that these ships are kind of weird right now, and if you ask me, they need to have a speed bonus while cloaked, which is, I believe, something that the developers are working on. And I would also add a lock, a signal boost bonus, so that it can lock faster, because the cloaking device does reduce your signal quite a bit. Now on to the other skills. Expert large raygun operation bonus will give plus 10% large raygun damage, plus 10% large raygun optimal range, total of 50% damage and 50% extra range with the railguns. This ship utilizes 2 weapon systems, drones and missiles. Expert large drone operation bonus will give you plus 50% drone damage, plus 5% drone optimal range, plus 5% drone tracking speed, which is a total of 250% drone damage, 25% extra range and 25% extra tracking, which is awesome because you can utilize large drones, you can utilize medium and light drones. Expert drone bonus per level will give you plus 10% drone, plus 10 km drone command range, plus 5% drone flight velocity, plus 5% drone effective hit points, total of 50 kilometers, plus 5%, plus 25% drone flight velocity, and plus 25% extra drone EHP. Expert Battleship command bonus per level plus 2% flight velocity, minus 2% inertial modifier, and plus 0.2 light year maximum jump range. So overall, the Sin is very, well, obviously very Dominix-like. After all, it is based on the Dominix, and overall has some very nice skills. So it has 5 drones, 4 high slots, 3 medium slots, 6 low slots, 3 combat, and 3 engineering rigs. As for the tank, it has a very nice recharge rate on the shield, but this isn't exactly a shield tank, but you can technically make the Sin a shield tank if you like. I mean, it has the bonus on extenders and on armor plates, so you can choose any of these 2 systems, but in my case, since this is a Gallant ship, it has a bit more armor than it has shield. I would run the Sin as a armor tank, passive or active depending on what you want to have from the ship. 7,379 GJ capacitor, 164 seconds recharge rate. Recharge time, recharge rate is 22.22 GJ per second. It can lock 8 targets, 294.2 meters is the signature radius, 116 meters the scan resolution, and strength is 28.1. And this is a space potato, so I don't really expect this thing to be that fast, but we'll see what is its maximum velocity. So, let's see. Oh, and yeah, actually, I'll come to that later. So, how would I fit this thing? So, ignore my horrible DPS. My DPS is, yeah, obviously pretty trash right now, and I'll give you the reason why. You can obviously see the reason why that's the case. I lack expert drone skills. I also lack some other skills, but that's because I have skill out of that a long time ago and haven't had much time to actually go back to it. But you can get some pretty nasty DPS on this thing. I mean, it's a drone boat. It has basically the best implant in the game right now, which is the drone bomb. So this thing primarily can be and should be used with drones. Meanwhile, the blasters or the railguns are basically secondary weapons, and I have the blasters equipped. It's a very interesting ship because it has a bonus on drones and bonus on turrets, very similar to the Rattlesnake. So you're still going to be doing a lot more damage with your drones than with your turrets. In my case, it's the other way around because of the skills, but you can get some very nice drone DPS on this ship, and you can also get some very, let's say, very scary DPS. We're looking at maybe about 20,000 DPS with the drone bombs. Again, we'll have to test that out on the tester. And this is the classic build that I have on the Prophecy. I have this built on some of my other drone boats, and I have large drones, since you can fit any drone that you like basically. It has a bonus on all of them. In the low slots, a micro wardrobe, damage control, a plate, and triple drone damage amplifiers. A classic build that I use, and a build that I have basically been using for a very long time. So the first build, well, this is actually the first build, but the first build where I would go with 2 rigs. You can make the Sin to be a tank or DPS ship, depending on what you want to do with it, and it can also be a pretty decent tank. 73,000 armor hit points by default, which is, you know, pretty solid. And of course, since I'm going with the armor tank route, let me quickly assemble a build here. So if you want to have the ship as a Sino bait, which is actually a pretty interesting concept. Basically, you have a very heavily passively tanked battleship, and you want to tackle someone. You basically yeet the battleship, and you surprise your opponent with a very nasty Sino that can eat capitals, super capitals, can also eat other ships. But this would look something like this, basically. 3 adaptives, dual plates, and we have a damage control as a panic button. And of course, this is how it would look. Now you have 2 scramblers basically to hold the target, and this is where things get maybe a bit, you know, a bit weird with this ship, but other Black Ops ships have 4 medium slots. In some cases they have the Widow has 5. If you want to have this ship to work as a Sino bait ship, you definitely want to have at least 3 scramblers. So with this ship it's not really possible to do that unless you have some of the new special cores that give you extra slots. But I won't really be using this ship for a Sino bait because 3 scramblers are ideal, because there's a lot of Warp Core 9 stabs out there, and with this ship you may not be able to hold them. If there's a bubble, not a big deal, but it's not really ideal to have this ship as a Sino bait. But honestly, we will see how that will go. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. And of course, for this build you can also use the thermal circulation implant, which is the best. So with the thermal circulation implants, I have 304,000 hit points, 64, 53, 72, and 61% resistances. Not bad. Now let's quickly undog and let's take a look at the active stats of this thing. I think it should be pretty interesting to see how hopefully my internet doesn't crash. I mean, I have so much bad luck, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, honestly. So, let's take a look at the tank on this thing. Let me just reassemble the modules. There we go. That looks nice. So 552,000 hit points, 85, 80, 88 and 83%. Of course we have the damage control. That will buy you extra 13 seconds and now have 2.1 million hit points. You also have the armor plates that you can activate and they give you some extra armor that you can also use.
Accepted.
Now this is a Black Ops after all, so you also want to have your cloaking device installed. Now for a cloaking device I can sacrifice the extra armor plates or I can sacrifice extra resistance. And honestly I would leave the choice of which module to sacrifice up to the player, because in some builds you can sacrifice extra armor hit points, with some other builds we can sacrifice extra armor volume. So in my case I can just pick which one I want to sacrifice, and it can also look something like this with a cloaking device. Now as mentioned, it does reduce your speed and scan resolution is also reduced. It needs to lose the scan resolution adjustment, a negative effect for the ship, and I think that's one of the things that will be definitely changed down the road. And of course you can use a micro warp drive on this thing, or an afterburner, or a dual propulsion build, although a dual propulsion build might be kind of funny on this thing, but it's, you know, you can definitely do that if you have a build that will work well with it. And you can also get a build like this. It does sacrifice a little bit of armor volume, but you also do get a micro warp drive afterburner, damage control plate and a cloak. So let's take a look at the speed. Now I don't really expect this thing to be fast. The Panther is definitely the fastest, but you know, this thing can also should be able to get some decent speeds. We're about to find out. And let's orbit. Well, 1.1 km per second, not bad actually. And the tank 81, 76, 86 and 80%, 421,000 hit points. Honestly, not that bad at all. Pretty satisfied with the numbers. And of course, it can cloak. There we go. A cloaky Dominx. Isn't that lovely? And the speed is also significantly, yeah, 45 meters per second. Unfortunately, that's the thing I don't like about these ships. Or at least right now. The speed has been crippled and that needs to be changed. But you can insta-lock after the cloak, so that's also one positive thing about these ships. You can immediately lock the targets when you decloak. So yeah, that's a good thing, which not many ships have. Not even some cover-top ships also lack this ability to lock immediately after decloaking. Only Black Ops ships, bombers and Starfief have this ability. So, what else can I do with this thing? Well, you can play around with the armor plates. I mean, the build that you pick is literally up to the... it depends on the player. But since you do get a bonus on plates and extenders, you can just go freely with that. And yeah, it's decent increase of 13,000 armor hit points per plate. So yeah, this would be a passive tank build. And these ships are kind of meant to be used in a more passive way. Now, you can do the same thing, but with shield. Of course, for a build like this, I recommend that you have a shield tank. When I say shield tank, means shield rigs. Right now I'm going to have a cursed ship, and I'm about to do something that you should never do with your ship. Never ever pick armor rigs and never slap shield modules, because this is cursed. And a ship like this deserves to be blown up. So yeah, and just don't do what I'm doing and fit the ship properly, because this is not... Now this would be a horrible build, but Ignore the rigs for now, because I'm just showing you the shield stats, because it technically can do both. 64,000 shield hit points, and of course with different setup I can get definitely a lot more shield. In all ways you can actually make the shield equal the armor, which is kind of funny. And you can also go with a triple adaptive build. One extender also works really well. You can also do the same thing with the cloaking device. You can also do something stupid like what I'm about to do and go with a full-on chunk brick tank, which honestly is kind of funny, but these ships have very nice passive shield regeneration, which in the future should be buffed with the addition of new modules, with passive tank modules, and hopefully passive tank rigs. So a build like this could potentially be quite hilarious with extra passive shield regeneration. I built a Raven Navy that was able to tank my Macariel with a passive tank, so honestly, theoretically we're looking at something quite interesting. You can do the same thing with armor as well, but with armor your ship will be a little bit slower, and since armor plates do slow down your ship, let's see how fast this thing will go with a micro wardriff and with a afterburner. Wait, didn't I? No, let's not fit a medium one, let's go with a large one and a C-type micro wardriff. I clicked like 5 times on the module and it didn't respond, that's kind of funny. Here we can place a... let's go with an extender, and over here we can place a clocking device, because why not? I have a bunch of clocking devices here. I was prepared. Alright, let's undock and let's see.
Undocking.
Let's see the active stats of this thing now. And the speed. I'm actually very interested to see the speed on this thing without the plates slowing it down, because you know armor plates are known to slow stuff down, so... and I also have to be fast. I don't know when my internet, my connection will basically die, or when my power will cut. 1090 meters per second, actually not that much of a difference, honestly. And it has, yeah, 303,000 hit points shield.
Docking request accepted.
Well, that's interesting. Now, let's do something more different with the rigs. You can basically pick tank or active or passive tank. These ships are kind of meant to be used with a passive tank because of the stats, but we'll see what they'll do down the road. So, let's destroy the rigs and let's slap some drone DPS rigs. Now, you might be wondering, well, this ship has a bonus on turrets, on blasters and drones, so would it be appropriate to focus on both? And I actually thought about that. We'll have to go on a test server and basically verify the information, basically, but from my experience on these ships that have drones and turrets, it is just better to go with drones, because drones have the nastier DPS, they have the nastier implant, and you will be doing much more damage with the drones than you'll be doing with turrets with this ship. So go with drones, the safer option. The drones have also received the new implant recently, which will work really well. So yeah, drones are definitely the way to go, if you ask me. Now, how would I build a cloaky? Well, cloaky. Let's actually make it cloaky. Cloaky DPS PvP Special Ops or Black Ops Dominx. Well, it's very similar to the Panther, with the difference that it's using both turrets and drones in this case, primarily drones, but it can utilize both. And with the tank here, you can actually go with a shield tank, passive shield tank, or a passive armor tank. Both work, since you will have rigs for DPS. Doesn't really matter what tank you pick, both will work just fine. The DPS is going to be horrendous because my skills suck, but with this build you should get some pretty nasty DPS out of this ship. With the Panther, my DPS was much higher because I had skills for it. I was already prepared for the Panther, so yeah, that's the big difference. But with drone bombs, we can get some pretty scary DPS with this thing. As mentioned, you can go with a shield extender, and you can also go with a armor plate, which we know would look like this, and it will work almost in the same way. So I leave this option up to you, which one of these tanks you prefer. If you like shield, go shield. If you like armor, go armor. But the DPS is going to be the main thing, and I like how I'm talking about the DPS with having like 381 drone DPS. Actually, let me see if my DPS will be better if I go with my other drones. I have good skills for the heavy drones, for the large drones, but my best skills are for the medium ones, and I don't know how. Wait a second, didn't click on the light one. Where's the large one? Medium, my apologies. There we go. Maybe it would be better. We're about to find out. But yeah, ignore my horrible DPS. Again, that's because of my skills. Don't be shocked by the low DPS, because again, it's just my skills being trash. Well, actually, you know what? I'll just keep the medium ones because I have higher DPS right now. Alright, fair enough. So this would be how I would use this ship for PvP. After all, it is a drone boat. I have the bomber tactic implant. That implant is nasty, scary, so you can easily use the ship this way. You can also go with the more chunky routes. Works the same way, although the chunk gives you more tank, which in some cases might be better. Now, how about we go and do a PvE build? PvE build is very easy to do on this thing. I'll just go with something very easy to pull off, which is full DPS. I mean, for high sec, you don't really need a lot of tank. We already have established that a long time ago. Basically, you're free to go full DPS, very little tank for maximum clear speed. Since in high sec, you don't really need to worry about any pirates and similar. At least not now. We will see when they add the war declaration mode. Then it's going to be fun. Then high sec is going to be bloodbath, but we'll see when that will happen. And a large Nosferatu to maintain the capacitor, and we have ourselves a okay DPS high sec boats. I wouldn't be using this for low sec. This is not a low sec fit. For low sec, I would use more tank and snipe, and I would snipe. But this is how this ship would look if it were built for high sec. And well, let's see how this thing will feel when I fly it in combat. So let's see how this thing will perform. I mean, I already know how it will perform because of my non-existent skills, but still, it will be interesting to see. I believe that this thing with the new implant can be very scary. I haven't really looked at the Redimer's skills, because there is a question which one of the BlackOPS boats is actually going to have more DPS. The Sin or the Redimer, which is the Redimer is, by the way,
we're under attack.
The armor BlackOPS, which I will have to fly next. But yeah, which one of these two ships is actually going to have more DPS? Honestly, no clue. I will have to test it out. And since we're at it, time to make some nice looking screenshots for a thumbnail. I mean, this thing looks awesome. For some reason, the background in this system is gorgeous. So yeah, should be quite nice to look at, honestly. So I forgot to take a look at my blaster range. Optimal 11.7. Okay, let's go at 11 kilometers and keep at range. So the Sin doesn't really have anything else going for it besides DPS, and I believe based on the skills that I've seen, the Redmer might be more of a utility ship with less DPS, but it is basically a fusion between the Balgorn, the Armageddon, and it has its own thing basically. So the Redmer might be good for Evo operations. If you need a Evo boat, Evo Black Ops boat, then the Redmer is definitely the way to go. If you want more DPS, then this thing might be the way to go. Of course, this is if you have drones as your primary weapon system. Now, in my case, the drone weapon system is usually, I guess, okay, but mostly the medium drones. After all, I have the Statius and some of the other medium ships, cruisers, that I use in PvP basically every day. Well, almost every day, but you get what I'm trying to say here. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the Redmer will perform with the Sin. And there's still the question, are we going to have like Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 ships? I believe that might be the thing, since I've heard rumors that there is going to be more special ships on the way, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how will that end up. And honestly, with my current horrible skills, I would say the DPS isn't all that too bad. The blasters seem to be pulling their own weight here, which is perfect, I would say. And the drones are also doing their own nice little DPS. I could use the large drones, but I don't really trust my skills for large drones. Maybe I'm not going to be able to chase down the smaller ships, so just to be safe, not to have a very funny lost mail here, I'll be using the medium drones. Because it would be hilarious if I lose this ship and just have a 50 billion kill mail, lost mail, random out of the blue. And this is not even my ship, by the way. Now you might be wondering, well, when am I going to get my own ship? It's going to be soon, don't worry. I'm actually eyeing to get the Panther, waiting for the price to be normal. I mean, just look at the price tag on these things, it's insane. Well, that's the insurance price, 24 billion, but the Widow is 9 billion, the Typhoon, the Panther is 10 billion, only one available, surprisingly. Redmer is 9.2 billion, and there is this thing, the Space Potato, 10.9 billion. So yeah, this is one of the more expensive ones, which is kind of funny. But yeah. Now you might notice that my capacitor isn't doing that well, and I would agree actually. The capacitor on the Space Potato is surprisingly not that good. I was expecting a much better capacitor out of this thing, mostly because this is a Galactic ship after all, and they should be known to have some good capacitors. But apparently this ship is kind of a, well, I guess not all ships have to follow the same formula.
We're being warp scrambled.
Not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're used to ships with good capacitors, then this ship might disappoint a little bit. Even though I have some good skills for stuff like that, but for this ship apparently that's not entirely enough. Maybe an armor tank is definitely the way to go if you're running PvE, since with armor tank your capacitor will be much more stable. After all, armor tanks have much less capacitor usage, so that would probably help with the power usage of the ship. Actually, I'm curious to see, yeah, my DPS, 1.2 thousand DPS. That's kind of funny, 540. Actually, you know what, I'll just wait for all the damage mods to come out of cooldown, and then I'll just use all of them at the same time. I really want to see how much DPS I can get out of this thing. I mean, it's not going to be much with my skills, but still can be very funny. And with that brings us the question, does the Nestor still remain the king of drone DPS? Well, we'll have to test out that on a test server, because obviously over here the number is not going to be accurate because of my random skills. Surprisingly, I should have good skills for the Nestor. Somehow, that's kind of funny how I have good skills for some random ships that I haven't been using much. I had plans for a PvP Nestor, but for some reason I quickly gave up on that idea. I think the price tag kind of chased me off. I don't know, actually. But I had plans for a PvP Nestor. I did build one, but then Couple of Edge came around and I sold the ship for a very juicy price tag, so... Oh yeah, now I remember. I actually sold the ship because it became very expensive on the market. And I needed ESC at the time, so I sold it. Honestly, a very good choice. And drone boats will probably remain very good for the Cobalt Air system. We will see how they'll perform in the Kalevala expanse, which will be released very soon, I hope. I mean, very soon. Definitely getting closer and closer, that's for sure. Since December is around the corner, I give it the next like 2 weeks and we may see some Kalevala expanse news. And let me tell you, that's going to be fun, because could technically be very similar to open world abyssal space, something similar, and that sounds quite interesting, to be honest. So I'm quite excited to see how that will work. Let's try orbit, actually. Orbit at 11 kilometers should work. Orbit at 11 kilometers, orbit. The medium drones are really nasty, and the Dominx is known to have some very nasty drones, so you definitely are not going to go wrong with using drones on the medium drones on this thing. And the new implant, of course. If you have the new implant, then it's even better then it's probably even better than the Bomber Tactic for PvE. Bomber Tactic implant still remains king when it comes to PvP, because the sheer burst that you unload on your target is just insane. No implant comes close to that. Maybe the barrage, but the barrage is easily countered, while the Bomber Tactic just eats. The Bomber Tactic doesn't really care much about the ship resistances, or well, the Bomber Tactic doesn't really care about a lot of things, to be honest. It just wrecks. Kind of funny how that goes. Okay, let me pull back the drones so that I can reload the bombs, and then we will be going full DPS. Okay, drones are out. Focus fire, and let's just enable all of them at the same time. 1.4 thousand DPS. Yeah, that's some groundbreaking numbers there. It would be a lot more scary if I had better skills, of course. So don't be shocked by the low DPS. But yeah, kind of funny to look at that number, honestly.
Enemy ships detected.
Okay, and
We're under attack.
let's lock on the last targets.
We're under attack.
And let's just wreck the smaller ships first that have points, and then I'll finish up with the big ones. So this ship definitely is fun. I honestly enjoyed rolling the Sin, a very lovely name as well. I love the naming of these ships. So this thing has performed really well based on my horrible skills here. Can only imagine how good it will perform if you have proper skills for the ship. And of course, don't do what I'm doing. Don't fly ships that you have no skills for. That's not a good idea. I'm flying it with no skills because I want to show you how the ship works and how the ship looks. But I really don't recommend that you try to fly any ship basically with no skills. It's usually not a very good idea, and usually doesn't really end well for the ship itself. Speaking from experience, so that's one thing to note. And my battery, 10% battery left, lovely. Guess I'll have to finish up very quickly. Don't want to lose battery with this thing in space. Can you imagine losing this because you fall asleep or something similar? Yeah, I can tell that would be hilarious. And there actually have been some losses. There have been some Black Ops losses that I've seen. Didn't really expect them to be blown up that soon, but yeah, there have been some Black Ops losses. Or actually, I might even go and dock very soon because yeah, I'm not trusting the battery. 9% left. It's not good. That's a very low battery left there. Yeah, let me just set course to the station on time before. Let's just do this real quick before anything funny happens. So tell me in the comments down below, which one of these ships do you like the most? The Panther, the Sin, the Widow, or the Redeemer? Which one do you plan to get? As for me, well, it's pretty obvious for me. I mean, I think it's really obvious in my case because I already have very good skills for cannons, so obviously I am going with the Panther route just because I have good skills for it. Good skills make a huge difference, honestly. So I'm definitely going with the Panther. Just waiting for the price to be reasonable. A reasonable price is all that I really need at the moment. But I can definitely also get behind the drone boats. I like how I'm passively tanking them now. The passive tank is very good on this thing. I mean, passive tank is really good on any new special ship, really. After all, they are made to be... their shields are made to be recovered passively very quickly. So yeah, I love the passive recharge. It definitely kicks in when it goes low. And of course, it can only be better. Really hoping to see some more modules and rigs that will improve the passive tank. Will make the game much more interesting, I would say. And down the road, I will actually show you some of the tricks that you can do with these ships. It turns out that the Black Ops ships are maybe some of the best ships for camping, because you can technically park a bunch of Black Ops ships all over the gate. Doesn't have to be one next to the other, but they can be in close proximity, and
Warning,
you can basically
capacitor
just
running low.
decloak when a target arrives. Doesn't matter if the target is a bait or not. If it's a bait, you can just warp out or cloak. Really difficult to catch a Black Ops camp. So that's a very interesting idea that popped up in my mind that I will have to test out in practical use. A Black Ops Battleship camp, in theory, impossible to push off the gate because you can catch them. Even if you throw a Sino bait, even if you launch a Sino at them, you can't really do much to harm them because they can just cloak and the bubble can just warp off. So they have they have a lot of different, let's say, ideas that you can pull off with them. And I will explore most of them, if not most, then all of them. After all, that's just what I do. I like to play around with new ships. And honestly, so far, I've really enjoyed flying the Black Ops battleships. They are not perfect by any means. They can definitely be better. as mentioned before, they lack speed while being cloaked, and they lack scan resolution. Two very important things that have to be changed. And we also have seen the same thing with the navies, with the navy battleships, and they obviously have been buffed, so you can expect that the Black Ops ships will also receive very similar treatment to the navies. When I say very similar treatment, you can expect them to be buffed, and you can expect them to be faster, maybe more tankier, maybe they will be able to lock faster, but there is definitely some updates ahead that will make these ships a lot more interesting, and I would say a lot more. They're already fun, they're already pretty interesting, but they can be better. So that would be also applied to this thing, to the space potato. Haven't really seen a lot of these ships in combat. I mean, I've seen some of them get blown up, but I personally haven't seen a lot of them in combat. I know one of my friends is using it. I'll be using a Panther very soon.
Warning.
So yeah,
Capacitor
definitely.
running low.
I mean, overall, definitely some exciting stuff, exciting days up ahead for sure.
Warning. Capacitor running low.
So we will see
Warning. Capacitor running low.
how these things will perform as time goes on, of course. I love how the turrets, they fixed the turret tracking. The blasters, basic all turret weapons, didn't really follow
Autopilot
target. Now they actually do. Alright, well, 5% battery left. Let me go and dock this thing real quick before my battery runs out. So that will be it for the Sin. Again, a very interesting ship that I obviously enjoyed flying.
Warp drive
and
active.
with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.